I'm Nick Desai. I have founded 5 venture-funded companies, 3 in health and wellness. And while voice has a lot of applications that can be used and will be used, and I really think just as we use our fingers in the Gen X, Gen Y, millennial age groups, the next 2 generations are going to use voice as interactively and as intuitively as we use fingers and remote controls to navigate us. But at the other end of the age spectrum, for seniors, voice can be the difference between getting health care and not. And here's why. Okay. When we talk about health in America, 24% of Americans, only 24%, that's 1 in 4, have a reading level better than 7th grade. Almost 100% of those people know how to talk and have a conversation. Now, that conversation may include the word sugars and for diabetes, and they may call it the cancer, and they may not know that what COPD stands for. They may just call it I get out of breath, but they can converse. Okay. Only 46% of seniors are comfortable with downloaded or browser-based apps or interface experiences, yet 100% of those seniors are comfortable talking. And so when we think about a voice interface, we think first in healthcare about voice as a bridge, literally and figuratively, to better health equity in America. And just to underscore that point for those of you that don't come from the healthcare world, health inequity in America is staggering. Disadvantaged people die younger, 12 years younger on average. Whether it's COVID, cancer, heart disease, or any other reason, the zip code you are born and your average annual income determine your lifespan to the order of a difference of greater than a decade. And that's an incredible tragedy that we can use voice to fix by improving the ways that seniors get access to care, not asking them to come to an interface they don't want to use, but coming to them with care in an interface they're already comfortable using. There are some other interesting things to think about when we think about voice in healthcare. The first is every 8 seconds in America, someone turns 65 years old. And 83% of those people, including my parents and my in-laws and virtually every senior I've ever spoken to, want to independently age in place. They don't want to depend on their kids. They don't want to depend on their grandkids. They don't want to move into a home, assisted living home, whatever the case may be. And by the way, that's good news. That's good news because we can't afford, the healthcare system cannot afford all of these people moving into assisted or senior living facilities, okay? But yet 70% of all seniors will need skilled help in their health care. They need, if you have 2+ chronic disease and you're taking 8+ daily medications and you're 75 years old and you're not particularly tech literate or have overall low literacy, as we talked about, you are going to need help navigating all the complexities of your healthcare. I'm a 51-year-old, very tech-savvy adult, and I was told 3 weeks ago by my doctor that I should get a study for sleep apnea, and I had to fill out 12 pages of forms that I first had to download and print from the internet to sign up and get the sleep apnea study that most of the people we're talking about would not be able to fill out. Yet they would be able to answer questions using their voice. There are 1.4 million openings for home health aides. As a result of all these people who need help, there are all these openings for home health aides over the next decade. That is more than any other occupation in America, as in we need more health aides than we need anything else, right? And the annual impact of us taking care of our loved ones, as in me taking care of my parents or whatever the case may be, is $643 billion. We're talking about a huge impact. And by the way, 75% of unpaid family loved one caretakers themselves feel stress or other mental health issues as a result of trying to take care of people without having the healthcare qualifications to do it. And primary care doctors don't have time. Only 61% of doctors coordinate care for their patients. And yet we can save $13,000 per patient per year from coordinated care. So there's a tremendous economic need, a health need, a human need, and an opportunity to make coordinated care more widely available in an interface that is universal to all the patients we're talking about, and not just the affluent or privileged patients. And so what we talk about at HeyRenee is to speak is human, and to speak is to heal. Voice is the killer UX for scalable, cost-effective, and life-improving healthcare. Amazon is using their Alexa in this way. Google is talking about using their home device in this way. But they come at it from an interface and device-centric perspective. We come at it from a what is the end user experience perspective. How do we engage a senior and make them comfortable talking to a machine, talking to AI that will help them lead happier, healthier lives and understand their goals in the process, right? When you talk to a senior, their goals are, or any American for that matter, their goals are rarely, oh, my HEDIS measures are better. Ooh, my CMS stars rating improved. What their goals are is, I want to be able to play with my grandkids, or I want to be able to date, or I want to be able to go out to dinners more often. And we can speak with them and they can speak with us in a way to better health. Now, the progression for voice to work in healthcare is the context is king, and a migratory path is critical. Okay, what do I mean by context? I mean social and cultural determinants, which we're going to talk about in a minute. But the migratory path is, if you ask any senior what they're most comfortable doing, it is, I can talk on the phone to another person. I can talk face to face to another person. Okay, we have to build that relationship of trust with actual humans, and then migrate that so that simpler things, because even seniors, even all Americans understand sometimes you get stuck on hold, and sometimes the person isn't available and you talk to an agent that doesn't know your history, right? Machines can fix those problems. Machines can be always on, instantly available, always know your history, always know it's you, your medications. These are things we take for granted in other aspects of the use of technology. So we have to move from a human to a human-like experience. And what human-like means is that the senior themselves feels this is easier than waiting to talk to a person. This machine knows me as personally as a human would, and I can speak as efficiently as I would to a human, but it gives me more immediate, more timely, more relevant feedback. And then moving to what we call a superhuman experience, which is where the intelligence of the machine exceeds what a human can do, and its ability to know you exceeds what a human can do, unless they are a loved one or a married person, someone you're married to, a spouse or a child who truly loves you. A machine can get to know you and know that you like to be called Mimi instead of Margaret, and know that you wake up at 8:45 on the weekends, but 6:45 on the weekdays, and know things about your life with flawless recollection and integration of those contextual elements. And this is a progression that we see. Right now, we are here, right? Human and human-like, and we want to build to superhuman over the next half decade. Now, the critical aspect is speaking to the whole human. And in healthcare, we're starting to talk more and more about whole human health, right? Healthcare is too often thought of in vertical silos. That's a heart patient, that's a diabetic, that's a cancer patient. You know what that is? That's a woman named Juanita Gomez, who's a grandmother, who speaks Spanish, who works part-time, and also has chronic pain, high blood pressure, and COPD, and wants to be able to make tamales for her church social and start dating somebody because her husband of many years passed away, and is prone to falls and lives in a house with stairs. All of these factors are critically important. And if Juanita gets out of bed late, okay, it is something is seriously wrong, because she doesn't get out of bed late, okay? Whereas somebody else, Joan or Jill or Jack, might get out of bed at different times every day. Speaking to this context is critical, and I'm going to show you an actual example of this happening with HeyRenee in our pilot program with real humans right now. This is an actual recording off an Alexa device.
Good morning, Joyce. Your blood sugar seemed high before bed last night. Did you follow your diet plan yesterday?
Yes.
I had a piece of cake at my granddaughter's birthday party. Sounds like fun. That could be the reason it was high. We'll keep an eye on the readings today. My stomach is hurting. Could it be related? The cake could have triggered your IBS. Would you like me to find an appointment with Dr. Ramos one afternoon this week? Yes, please, but could you make me a morning appointment? I swapped my shifts at the store. I'll get an appointment made for you. You'll get a text with the information, and your concierge will call you with any instructions. You will also see it on the appointments list on your HeyRenee dashboard when it has been made. Thank you so much.
So that is HeyRenee actually working.
Your blood sugar
Oh, oops, it's playing again. Sorry. That is HeyRenee actually talking contextually about healthcare to an actual patient. The part that is unimpressive in that demo that we take for granted as software and voice people is there's an Alexa device. We know who our doctor is. We know what our insurance is. That's all standard software stuff. The part that we worked on building is the context. She's a grandmother. She can talk about the birthday party. Our system can look at that and say, this is a diabetic person with irritable bowel syndrome. This would have caused this, and can ask relevant questions so that we can appropriately connect her to a doctor versus an ER versus an urgent care versus just let's let this pass. Oftentimes in our pilot, we find that the most common issue is a person says they're not feeling well because they forgot to take the medication that would help them feel better, the blood pressure medication or the insulin or whatever the case may be. Reminding him to take that and checking back with them in an hour with flawless machine accuracy is often critical to medication adherence, which can substantially improve outcomes. Now, the way we look at all this to build that experience, what is known is that data drives intelligence, but we have to look at data across family, social, cultural, activity, right? Was this person active yesterday? Were they in bed all day? Health records, specialists. Health data, as you all know from your own healthcare experiences, is extremely siloed. It's hard to get, it's hard to put together. And your typically doctor has no idea about what you eat and who you're dating and why that's important to you and what your personal life goals are, right? Those are not things. And I'll take an example. Elderly loved one of my own recently started medication for a heart arrhythmia, and the cardiologist paid no attention to the fact that the person happened to have a sensitive liver. The heart medication affects the liver, that drops the platelet count, dangerous drop in platelet counts. Okay, now another doctor is involved. We want to gather all of this information so again, we can contextually speak in real time to the patient because health is evolving. You start a medication yesterday, today your platelets are low, tomorrow we do something about it and you're back to normal, right? That corrective path requires a broader context of information. Now, what is unknown to people and is less important for younger, more affluent people. Sometimes we take this stuff for granted, but social and cultural determinants determine up to 80% of health outcomes. To make AI work, we have to take these into account. And I've touched on this, but I cannot overemphasize this, right? Telling somebody, for example, that they need to eat a proteinaceous diet and a low sodium diet, you need to understand, oh, this person's Korean and they typically eat Korean barbecue. Okay, well, meat has protein and they don't have a cholesterol problem, but Korean barbecue is a very high sodium diet, right? There's a lot of salt in it. Telling my mom, who's been a strict vegetarian her entire life, okay, well, you should eat eggs, right? She's basically vegan. She doesn't eat eggs, right? Is almost offensive to the point where it'll make her question all the advice from that clinical provider. These contextual factors determine more about health outcomes than almost any other thing we know. If you miss taking a pill for a day, it's not going to kill you. But if you get advice that you don't feel resonates with how you live your life in your language, by the way, right? Voice interfaces aren't just for English speaking people. They're for Spanish and Korean and Vietnamese and Hindi and Bengali and Swahili and every other language too. If we speak to people with respect and dignity, they will engage more effectively. So what are the capabilities of voice interfaces at the forefront of healthcare right now, such as the ones we're building? Voice is a connector. I want to speak with my doctor. You say that to Alexa. Alexa knows who your doctor is, sets up an appointment, comes back to you. Okay, great. Voice is an interface. to a commerce transaction. I need my amlodipine. I need a refill for my medication. We can look at which one is most likely to be out. No, do you mean amlodipine? Yes. Confirming you take 5 milligram tablets. Yes. Do you want it delivered to your house from Walgreens? Yes. Boom, done. Okay. And then finally, voice as engagement, right? What you heard some of. Remember to take your blood pressure now. Your blood pressure is low. Have you taken your medications today? Right? You have an appointment coming up. Engaging the patient more proactively to keep them on track to daily health engagements that are critical to driving improved outcomes, right? Where do we want to go, right? Where does this go? It goes to voices diagnostics. This is already possible now. We have integrated into HeyRenee a tool from a company called Sound Health that you speak to for 30 seconds. It asks you a question that you answer, and it can detect using the timbre of your voice, the pitch, the pace, etc., knowing you once it's calibrated to you, how you're feeling today, right? Do you have depression, anxiety, nervousness, or you're afraid of something? Then we move to a big leap, the voice as a provider. Okay, your stomach pain is a reaction to your antibiotics because this antibiotic is prone to cause stomach pain in people of Mexican descent who are also on this medication. We can matrix all that and give that information. There's some regulatory factors there, of course, and then ultimately, voice is a predictor, right? Because we can look at longer term data on the back end and say, this person, as an example, I'll give you a great example of this. If your resting heart rate, that's your heart rate when you're sleeping, increases by more than 10%, there's a strong correlation to an impending cardiac event, okay? Detecting that and getting you to see someone before anything has happened or getting you to take corrective action, these are the places we want to go in the next 12 to 48 months in this arena. Okay, now, one of the most important things about voice is that it's not a device-based thing. People, oh, it's Alexa, it's Google Home, it's Siri, it's this, it's Samsung has some interface. It's as much a landline phone talking to an IVR system as an Alexa, as a Siri, as my smart fridge, as interactive television. We've actually done a really interesting test integration in the set-top boxes. Seniors are often watching TV. You could have a medication reminder pop up and engage the patient there, pausing a television program they might be watching. Abstracting intelligence from interface is a critical factor in the always on, always with you experience. So a person is talking, and as they go about, they don't have to go to the room where the Alexa is or speak loudly enough or speak in its format. And for that, the back end, the natural language processing, has to get that much more intelligent and capable so that all these devices can understand the patient, speak conversationally to them, interface with databases and intelligence engines, and deliver better care. So ultimately, voice can win as a scalable way to serve America's burgeoning healthcare needs for an older, underserved population that can benefit the most. The last interesting stat I'll tell you is this one, is that this kind of data-driven digital coordinated care most helps the most disadvantaged. In a study, it was shown that this kind of voice and tech-enabled coordinated care will lower healthcare costs on Medicaid patients 384% more than on those on Medicare, right? Both the groups are seniors. One is a lower income group, one is a higher income group, and it can have that kind of substantial difference. So I'm Nick at HeyRenee.co. If you want to connect with me,